Welcome back, everybody, to another episode on the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to be right back with today's guest, but guess what? We're going to give a shout out to our sponsors. You've heard me say many times, these are all great companies. You should have them working for you. So take 3 minutes, listen to our shout outs, then listen to our interview, and then go and visit these sponsors. I'm telling you, you're going to be really glad you did. Here we go. We want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and schedule a live web demo to see their products in action. You've heard me say many times, probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com, schedule that live web demo today. We also want to say thanks to Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school, that our coaches, our student athletes, even our parents just love the Huddle platform. Go to huddle.com, join the millions of users, and turn your school into a Huddle school. That's huddle.com. We also want to say thanks to Home Campus. Scheduling, rosters, results, communication, facilities, eligibility. Home Campus does all of these things and more and does it better and faster than the other platforms. Go to homecampus.com to get started. That's homecampus.com. We want to thank Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Wall of Fame has been helping schools bring their legacy to life for over a decade, but now their content creation service, Beacon Creative, takes it to a whole new level. Their talented team of writers and creators are going to come up with compelling narratives using your school's history, your legacy, and then you can then post them on your social media platform. You really got to see it to believe it. I want you to go to vitalsignswalloffame.com and click on Content Services. You're really going to be impressed. That's vitalsignswalloffame.com. We also want to say thanks to Gipper. Gipper is the modern marketing platform that allows athletic directors to post all the great things that their kids, their coaches, their program is doing. Gipper is #1 rated for athletic marketing, and one of the big reasons is the thousands of professionally designed templates that you can then customize with your colors, your brands, your logos. Gipper can let you share and schedule all your school's social media content in one simple platform. And that platform is Gipper. Go to Gipper.com to get started and make sure you tell them you heard about it on the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to Booster Hub, the #1 booster club software platform. If you help your boosters with volunteer signups, you know that volunteer changes are a daily occurrence. Well, with Booster Hub, nothing falls through the cracks. Everybody stays engaged and connected. The same is true for sponsorship fees and concession sales. Booster Hub does it all. Give your boosters the platform they need. Give them the platform they deserve. And that platform is Booster Hub. We also want to say thanks to Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. Now, you've got a choice when you pursue your master's degree, but if you're looking for a program that's consistently rated at the top, it's recognized on a national level and also allows you to earn a master's degree at the same time you're completing 11 NIAAA leadership training courses, then Ohio University is the one for you. Check out Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. We want to say thanks to our friends at Hometown. Hometown's platform includes things like, well, digital ticketing, of course. They're still the #1 digital ticketing provider for schools and colleges, but how about fee-free fundraising through School Funder, athletic website construction, and a whole lot more? Whether you're an athletic director, a coach, even a principal, Hometown is going to show you how to save time. It's going to show you how to save more money, and it's going to show you how to bring your entire community together. You'll find it all at hometown.com. And we want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. If you're not using a survey to take the pulse of your student athletes, your coaches, and your parents, you're missing out on a great opportunity. go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that truly connects you to all of your stakeholders. That's athleticsurveys.com. And for every single one of our sponsors, please make sure you mention you heard about it on the Educational AD Podcast. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. Longtime listeners, and I do mean longtime listeners, will certainly recognize today's guest. If not, if you're new, go back to season 2 and listen to our interview with Jim Harris. Jim was on, like I said, season 2, and we've got him back. Has a tremendous background in athletics and leadership, also in podcasting. He has his own show. Jim Harris, welcome back to the Educational AD Podcast.
It's great to be here. I think about all those years ago when I did this, and I say all those years ago. I can tell you we're right in the middle of the pandemic, and I hustled down into the basement. Wife was mad at me, and it was time to get away and have a good conversation with you. And then, and for me, that was 3 jobs and 2 different careers ago.
Well, again, and that's part of, I think, the appeal of our show. Again, I love doing the interviews, but I think people like to listen to not just the best practices, which we will get to, but also the journey that we all take. And, I mentioned this, we've had in our, 750 interviews and 1,400 plus segments, we've had NFL Hall of Famers. We've had, professional athletes from just about every level, including a ton from the WNBA. But Jim Harris is the only professional wrestler that we have ever had on as a guest. So he's going to share that and more. But Jim, as you know, we always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So let's go and talk about your origin story. For this segment, maybe only take us up through your high school and college days, and then we'll take a break. But let's hear about Jim Harris. Where are you from?
Born and raised in Alexandria, Virginia, which is a stone's throw away from the District of Columbia, D.C., and right outside of where the national conference has been held a few times at the we call it the National Harbor, Maryland. And born and raised there. I was I wasn't the most athletic kid growing up until I was about 8th grade, and then I shot up from 5'6" to 6'1", and then all of a sudden they put the freshman basketball coach put a basketball in my hand, and it's like, okay, you just stand there and get big, and so I wasn't very good as a freshman, and then I honed my skills at the blacktop for a year and ended up having a decent high school basketball career. But I was never one of those kids that wanted to go far away. So I decided to go to college at George Mason University, which is right outside of, outside of Alexandria, all part of the same county. And, and I was lucky enough to start coaching high school at my old high school at 18, so I mean, it's the JV, my JV basketball coach got the head coaching job. I was just a young kid hanging around the gym, just shooting. He's like, hey, do you want to get in to help us coach? And I was like, that sounds like a great idea. I knew I wanted to teach. I wanted to be a PE teacher at that time. And so I fell in love with coaching. And, I did whatever I could to coach. I would move my class schedule around, take different odd jobs to pay for college. And I ended up coaching basketball, for 18 years, but, it put me through college. And, and in the interim time also picked up a little bit of softball and just coaching and a little bit of freshman football.
I want to go back. We're going to hear more about your career, but I want to go back to, being a kid. We talk about this all the time, backyard football games and driveway basketball and that sort of thing. Now, as you were talking about when you got to high school, you had that growth spurt. I was had a similar experience, and I remember as a kid though, even before organized sports, I played a little bit of little league, but um, I was never the best athlete. But I knew I loved playing, and then I could play. And then when I got that growth spurt, obviously confidence goes up a little bit. How was that for you prior to that growth sport? Were you I mean, you're a big guy, but I mean,
Yeah,
was that fun there? Was there some confidence there before the growth spurt?
yeah, and it was I am in another lifetime, and I was a karate guy. I was a I did the martial arts from the time I was about 10, and then I started working at the karate school, which gave my first love of teaching and almost like in a sense coaching. And so, that helped build confidence. But yes, going from 5'6" to 6'1", it was, boom. It's like I could do so much more. And then it put me in high school. I was just I've been used to just being a smart kid, just, not really into the athletics. But then now I'm thrust in part to with all the athletes, and I'm with the smart kids. And, now I figured out where the weight room is. I was with the kids that are working out. So it helped me high school wise, expose me to a whole greater group of people.
Mhm. Yeah, I just remember those opportunities that popped up in high school. Like in PE class, you were a group captain or something. You're setting up the cones for the PE teacher, and then just seeing things. I guess I had an eye for things in high school football and basketball. Just seeing how drills were set up, it stayed with me later on.
And
Um,
that's how I ended up getting better in basketball. I was a tall kid, so I made the team. I didn't get a lot of playing time, but in that freshman year to sophomore year, the head coach would have open gym, open runs, and to do that, I would get there early to help set up the gym. And then because I was there to get early to set up the gym and help out, I got picked to be on the first team. And so, I had no business being out there, but I got put under the wing because I showed initiative to be there and help.
Oh no, those small lessons, you
Mhm.
don't sometimes you don't even know that you're doing it, but they come back to pay big dividends. Um, you started coaching when you were 18. Let's fast forward to that undergrad experience. Were you at that point? Were you a PE major? Were you training, thinking you're going to be coaching, or how did
Yeah,
that all happen?
yeah. So I was coaching at 18. I was coaching JV the first, a JV assistant the first year, and then freshman coach the second year. And so I'm enjoying it. I'm going through college, and PE major. This is the mid to late '90s, and the athletic director pulled me aside right in the middle of warm-ups one game, and he goes, James, I hated it when he called me James. I always thought I was in trouble. And I was like, you need to see me tomorrow. We want to talk. And I was like, oh crap, what do I do now? And he pulled me aside and he goes, hey, I know you're a PE major, but I think PE is a dying art here at the high school level. We only got 4 PE teachers here, but if you go down in English, biology, and math, we got 10, 12 teachers. I think you're selling yourself short if you go to school and just to get a PE degree. And so, me being the impressionable dumb young man that I was like, okay, yeah, I could do other things. I'll be a science teacher. Experiments are good. I took my first science class in college and went, no, I can't. Too much details. There are type A people in this world. I'm probably a type J. You know, and so I was good at math, and I ended up getting a math degree, and because it was just I had some good mentors that were math teachers, and one of which was the softball coach, and they so I gravitated towards the math, and so that changed my whole career, just by one AD taking an interest in my future, and but at the same time, you know it would have been cool to be a PE teacher for a long time, definitely less papers to grade.
Well, I went that PE route, but I did have an advisor that was, and I was smart enough to follow his advice. He said, take those two courses to get a health minor. And I don't want to do that, but I did it. And that's how I got my first two teaching jobs was, you got to teach health. Hey, I'm certified in health. So it worked out. Let's go and take our first break. For our listeners, we're visiting today again with Jim Harris. He's a certified master athletic administrator. He's the director of athletics at Freedom High School in Virginia. Let's take that break, but we are coming back. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and you can schedule a live web demo to see all their great products in action. You've heard me say many times, probably one of the best purchases I ever made as an AD was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. We use it for home games, of course, but we also use it for pep rallies, for signing ceremonies. Their products are incredibly versatile and their customer service just outstanding. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Schedule that live web demo today. We also want to say thank you to Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school, and our coaches, our student athletes, even our parents just love the tools on the Huddle platform. Go to huddle.com, join the millions of users, and turn your school into a Huddle school. That's huddle.com. And don't forget to mention you heard about it on the Educational AD Podcast.
As a longtime athletic administrator, our partnership with Huddle has been great, not only for the student athlete to be able to make their demo tape and for our coaches to be able to review film, but it's all the other intangibles and that they provide with breaking down the film, getting the stats in a timely manner, stuff that takes time away from the coaches, and being at big schools and being at small schools, they always cater their packages directly for the school and for their needs. I can't say enough great things about Huddle.
Oh, guys, Jim, thanks a lot for sharing that. And again, the advances, I still can remember years ago getting up early on a Saturday, taking the VHS tape, driving 3 hours out into the middle of nowhere to some convenience store to exchange the tape with next week's opponent. And now it's just a push of a button, and you've got somebody's entire season at your fingertips. So yeah, Huddle's great. And again, I love the fact that they've expanded into other sports, all the other sports too. So thanks for saying that. Once again, for listeners, Jim Harris is back on the podcast. He was a season 2 guest. He was a podcasting pioneer, and he's the director of athletics at Freedom High School in Virginia. Jim, you kind of took our listeners on your journey, through college and a little bit of those early coaching jobs. Share some of the stops in your journey that have now led you to your current position at Freedom High School.
It's great. It's funny you asked that is we were just starting to revamp our social media presence at here at Freedom, and we were doing. I made an initiative to make bio captions for everybody, and I wanted to do some fun facts. And one of the fun facts I put for me is that I've worked at or coached at 12 different high schools in my career. I like to call myself the Larry Brown of Northern Virginia. That's Larry Brown's a moving basketball coach in the NBA for our younger listeners. And but I chased that head basketball dream, kind of like you in football. I did what I had to do, and what I thought would be to get more experience, to get more experience to be a viable candidate to be a head boys basketball coach, because that's where I wanted to be. I want to be a head boys basketball coach and teach at whatever school I landed at for my whole career. And so, I was at my first stop at Edison for 5 good years, and we had a change in coaching staff, and I was like, well, I got to experience something new. I went over to Herndon High School, and I had probably the opportunity to coach one of the best basketball teams this area has ever seen. With a young Scotty Reynolds, who was a basketball player at Villanova. He was an All-American. Uh, you know, and uh, and so just to be able to do that, and we had Russell Watts was on that. His name was his dad played for the Celtics, and his first name Russell because his godfather was Bill Russell. I mean, it was just, all these, that experience. And then, it's like and then I branched out to another county, and it just progressively more and more, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Responsibility, more and more responsibility. And I found myself not so much coaching the kids, but running the programs. Found myself, doing big program things to be that head coach. And I was finished. To make money in education, you have to get more education. So it's like, all right, I need a master's degree. And so you either can get a master's degree in education, but in our area, you need a master's degree in education leadership to be an administrator, and that's what we classify our ADs or DSAs. You need that in administrative endorsement. So I figured that would open up more doors for me down the road if I wanted to ever leave coaching than just a regular education. And then going through that program, it's like, I like this. I like, making sure that the JV coach is set and the freshman team has everything they need. And, I got to the top at the time. I was a head girls coach at a school. And then, it was, I got the opportunity to be an assistant director of student activities at another school. So I had to make a decision. It's like, do you want to continue this coaching track, or do you want to change gears and start at the bottom and be an assistant athletic director, assistant director of student activities? And so I loved it. And so left the school and went to Oakton to be the assistant, and never looked back. And so at Oakton, I was one of three assistants. I said, well, I need more experience. What do you do? So I went back to Edison again for a third time, student, coach. And now I went back to Edison to be the assistant director of student activities. And, instead of being one of three, I was one of one. I was the only assistant. And that's where, I got to come into my own a little bit, figure out, what are the things that are my pillars, and which led me to my next stop, which was TC Williams High School. The coordinator of athletics and student activities for the largest school in Virginia, and some would say the most popular because of Remember the Titans and Denzel, that great movie. And you know, and I love TC Williams. While I was there, we had a name change. Now it's Alexandria City High School, but it was probably the best place. I'd still be there to this day, but my wife and I, we bought a house, 45 minutes away, and Northern Virginia traffic in the mornings, it would be anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half, and just had to make a decision, you know, do I stay where I love, or, find something a little closer to home? And I was able to go back to one of the many stops in my little trail. I went back to Loudoun County, and I got a job in the same county that my wife worked at. So we were all both on the same schedule, which was nice. And I was the AD there for a couple of years. And it was, and then, life happens. And, being in this job that we have is not an easy one, and it's not for everyone. Just for the long hours, the different, you're on call 24/7. APs, principals, they leave out of here. They leave at the end of the day, school day, and they don't have to worry about things until they get back. The ADs, we're on call if a bus doesn't show up, if practice times mess up, if there's an injury. And, if you have a family, that could put a toll on that. And so, after a couple of years at John Champ, my family needed me more than I needed the job. My daughter and, and my whole family really needed me more. So I said, all right, let's take a step back. and I decided I was going to go teach math. Hey, going back to those college years, everybody needs a math teacher now. You can just write your own ticket if you know math, and but I haven't taught full time in 10 years. And a buddy of mine is the AP over math here at Freedom, and he's like, "Come over here. We're done at 2 o'clock. You can go pick the kids up from elementary school afterwards." And I did that for a year, thinking that the AD world had passed me by. Which was fine because I was having a ball being dad. I got to coach little league. All the things that you can't do that when you're at the school 2-3 nights a week. Um, but it just happened that the AD job here opened up in January of my that year, and they opened it up, and nobody applied. Nobody of any substance applied the first two times. And so word got out that I'd been an AD in my previous life. And, it's like, okay, I think I can, talked it over with the wife, interviewed, got the job. And, 1 year later, I'm back and I'm loving it.
Again, I just love listening to all the stories of our guests. And, you mentioned earlier on, Larry Brown, kind of and his gypsy-like experience as a coach. For our younger listeners, the guy won an NCAA championship as a basketball coach. And, oh, by the way, he also won an NBA championship as a coach. He was kind of, I think, a guy that looked at programs that might need fixing, and he fixed them pretty well. And so, I think we admire those people that are at one place for 30 years or 35 years, whatever it is. But, there's a lot of nobility in going to different places and having an impact with different coaches, different kids, different community. That's, and I'm not trying to blow my own horn, but that's certainly my experience. I can look back. I was at 3 different startup schools, helped them get their program going. I loved that challenge. And stepping away from the AD world for pretty noble reasons. Hey, I want to spend more time with my family. That AD position. Scott Payne, Scott Payne, our good friend.
Oh, yeah.
He says AD. It stands for all duties, all day, and after dark. So that's what the job is. It is what it is. Let's go and take another quick break. That was some great stuff, but we are going to come back with more from our guest, Jim Harris, Certified Master Athletic Administrator and the Director of Athletics at Freedom High School here in Virginia. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We also want to say thank you to our good friends at Home Campus for their support. If you're an athletic director, you work with schedules, you work with rosters, you communicate with your students, your coaches, your parents, your state association, you're managing facilities, you're working on eligibility and clearance for your student athletes. Well, Home Campus does all of these things and does it better and does it faster than the other platforms. You need to go to homecampus.com, talk to their folks, let them show you all the great things they can do for you and your school. That's homecampus.com. We'd also like to thank Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Now, Wall of Fame has been helping schools bring their legacy to life for over a decade with their video boards, but they have a new content creation service called Beacon Creative that you really need to check out. Their talented team of writers and creators are going to come up with compelling narratives for your kids, for your coaches, for your school's history that you can then post on social media. You really got to see it to believe it. I want you to go to vitalsignswalloffame.com and click on Content Services. You're going to be very glad you did. vitalsignswalloffame.com. And we want to say thank you to our friends at Gipper. Gipper, if you haven't heard, is the modern marketing platform that makes it easy for athletic directors to share all the great things that their school and their program is doing. Gipper is used and trusted by over 20,000 high school and college athletic programs. It's the #1 marketing app for athletics. One reason it's #1, are the thousands of professionally designed templates that you can then customize with your colors, your logos, your brand to create, share, and schedule all your social media content on one platform. And that platform is Gipper. Go to Gipper.com to get started, and don't forget to mention you heard about it on the Educational AD Podcast. Welcome back, everybody, to the Educational AD Podcast. Jim, you shared your journey so far, but now that journey's brought you to Freedom High School. Share with our listeners a little bit about, again, the location, the community, the number of programs you're working with, and what are a couple things you're really proud of about the school?
We are Freedom High School, located in beautiful Woodbridge, Virginia. A fun thing about Freedom is we are in Northern Virginia. There are two Freedom High Schools, Freedom in Woodbridge and Freedom in Loudoun County, which is called South Riding. They opened a year apart, both same mascot, same colors, same everything. So it's like, well, did the left hand not talk to the right hand on this one? So it's funny. My wife is the school social worker at the other Freedom High School in Loudoun County in South Riding. So we're a Freedom family, just divided by 30 miles. But Freedom has a great history. We're about 23 years old. We had back-to-back football championships in the early 2000s, right at coming out of COVID. We were a football powerhouse, but with the change of a changing of the guard, we're to a point now where we're coming back into our own after a little lull. We are in a on we're not the most uh, uh, wealthy of schools. We have we have a great free and reduced lunch clientele, and we're very diverse. But what I'm most proud of recently is our coaching staffs. Our coaching staff, I have had the opportunity bring in to bring in Mike Elson, a great AD. So I purchased for all of our coaches their book that Rich Barton, and Carol, I'm blanking on her last name, but the leadership with legacy. I bought a copy of the book for every coach, and I had Mike come in and speak at an all coaches meeting. And each week this coming year, we're going to take a different aspect of their book, because it's broken down into 16 lessons. Just a bit for us to build our culture back, to figure out, get better at the art of coaching. And I think with people like Mike coming in and speaking to the group, I think it's going to help us back. But in the last year, we increased our athletic numbers, and our attendance went up 28%, almost 30% in the last year. And so people are coming out to see the games, and I think that's very reflective on our coaches and our student athletes to go out there and represent.
Well, you mentioned, Mike Book and Rich and Carol. It's Carol Dazabrin out of New Hampshire.
Yeah.
All great leaders. But on the idea of professional development, and I think that's one thing that ADs love to do for their coaches is provide professional development experiences. But sometimes they don't get the chance, either just don't have enough time in the day, or cost or things like that. What do you do throughout the year? What are some things that you do to, I guess, reinforce the lessons from the book, or just continuing to provide that availability of professional development to your coaches?
You know, that is a great point. I think at certain times in everybody's career, we're so worried about the athletic operations point. We're just trying to make sure that the buses are scheduled. We have a full schedule, that we don't, take the time with our coaches to help them with the art of coaching. We'll pay for them to go to a conference, and we assume that they're leaders in the X's and O's, but are they a leader in the art of coaching. And, far be it used to be, we used to have all teachers coaching. And so they are, inclined to come in and prepare a lesson plan, be able to handle the group. But now we're getting more and more people from outside of the building, professionals and other fields. And so teaching them how to be a coach, I find is, one of my most important things. Big thing is, one of my three pillars is education. So for all of our coaches meetings, I make sure to give out you know, some kind of nugget, something they can take away. My first coaches meeting, it was the 14 legal duties of a coach and an athletic administrator. And I would say half the people in the room, if not three quarters, had no idea about that. I mean, if you think about it, and my favorite example of that is, our duty to, in practice, to set people up of equal skill. Far be it, what do we used to have that young freshman that come in and thought he was the big dog, and what do? We pair him up with the big senior on the line and say, "Let's go," and to knock him straight. But we can't do that anymore. And part of it is I just like to throw out stuff that we consider common sense that maybe somebody who's not in education or not a full-time coach won't know. And and I think it's important to bring in people that from outside of the building to come speak to us, because you become so much smarter when you get 60 miles outside of the school, and people take your words a lot more effectively if you're from the outside.
Again, you're absolutely right. It's and you're talking about the 14 legal duties. I will present that frequently when an AD asks me to come in and speak to their coaches, and it's just the looks on their faces. It's just amazing to see that. Jim, we're going to do this at the end of the show, but I want to do it now too. If one of our listeners wants to reach out and pick your brain a little bit about your journey or things you do at Freedom, what's the best way that our listeners can connect with Jim Harris?
I have a limited social media presence, but it is there on Twitter, Twitter and Instagram. It's at Jim Harris CMAA, so it's easy to remember. You can message me on there, or just you can go to the Freedom of Woodbridge website, and just my email's up there. You can just email me, and I love to talk shop, and I love to interact with. Now, just like you, Jake, I love the stories, and I love to hear what other people are doing, because even 23, 24 years into this, I'm still getting new things, and it's great. I was just talking to my vendor who talked to the PTSO about something, travel suits for the whole school, for the athletics, not individualized by sport, but like for the whole athletic program. Just that branding, that sort of ideas. I love to hear them. So yeah, hit me up on any of the social media, Twitter or Instagram at Jim Harris CMAA.
All right. And again, we'll put that in the show notes as well. We're visiting with Jim Harris, the athletic director at Freedom High School. We're going to take another break. I know that's shocking to our regular listeners, but we are going to come back with more, so please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We also want to say thank you to Booster Hub, the #1 booster club software platform. If you help your boosters out with volunteer signups, you know that volunteer changes come with the territory. Well, with Booster Hub, nothing falls through the cracks. Everybody stays connected and engaged. The same thing is true with sponsorship fees and concession sales. Booster Hub does it all. Give your boosters the platform they need. Give them the platform they deserve. And that platform is Booster Hub. Go to boosterhub.com to get started. We also want to say thanks to Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. They're consistently ranked at the top of online programs in this area. They got a great national reputation. Their alumni just rave about the cohort, about the leadership experiences that they get. And while you're earning your degree through Ohio, you're also completing 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. Check out Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. Speaking of number one, we want to say thanks to Hometown. They're still the number one provider of digital ticketing for high schools and colleges. But how about athletic website construction or fee-free fundraising through School Funder? You really need to check out the Hometown menu. Whether you're an athletic director, a head coach, even a principal, Hometown is going to show you how to save time. They're going to show you how to raise more money, and they're going to show you how to bring your entire community together. You'll find it all at hometown.com. That's hometown.com. And guess what? Make sure you tell them you heard about it on the Educational AD Podcast. Hey, welcome back to the Educational AD Podcast. Jim, I've mentioned a couple times you're a certified master athletic administrator. Now, that doesn't happen by accident. Share a little bit with our listeners about your journey, not just with the NIAAA, but also the VIAAA in Virginia. How'd you hear about it? How'd you get started taking LTI courses? How did your journey begin?
I happened upon the NIAAA by almost by accident. I'm going through this administrative program. I start off thinking I'm going to be an AD, but I really figure out that the hours and everything's bad about that. So let me go look and be an AP. I look through it through the lens of being an AP, and then you realize I don't want to do discipline all day. So I went back and started looking through everything through the eyes of an athletic director, and just looking on certifications for athletic directors, just to see the NIAAA popped up, and I was like, I saw that there was certification levels, the RAA, the CAA, and CMAA, all these stuff, and then so and it's like, oh, okay, I'm in college, so I could get the college membership. It's like the Allied, which is cheaper, and it's like, okay, this is great. And I go it just happened to be that my internship coordinator was the athletic director at the school, and he was a past president of the VIAAA. And so he's like, okay, you want to be a part of this organization? You're here. I'll pay for you to go down and take these two classes, which end up being 501 and 502. And, I was lucky enough to take those foundation classes with two Hall of Famers, Dick Kemper out of Richmond, Virginia, and Jeff Dietze, both of which are Hall of Famers in the leaders in the LTC community. And I was hooked after that. I love to learn. I mean, yeah, honestly, I'd go back and get a doctorate degree if it wasn't cost and time prohibitive. But so I started my journey on that, taking those classes, those LTC classes, in conjunction with whatever school I was working at, and I'd get them to pay for most of them. And as I became a member of the athletic administrator community, I kept on with that professional development, and it is the best that you can get. I mean, most school systems have a handful of ADs, but they have thousands of teachers, so they're good at getting professional development for their teachers, but not so much for the athletic administrators. And that's what the NIAAA provides with their LTC courses. And as I was getting ready to get the big chair in athletic administration, I started to get more involved with the VIAAA. I went and I said, how can I be more involved? And I got a spot on the board of directors as the vice chair of the public relations committee. And people are like, well, what's the public relations committee do? So, I don't know. Being part of the, help with the public, right? Or, but basically I parlayed that as to start our, on the road with the VIAAA podcast. So I could hear the stories of other athletic administrators in the state of Virginia, and to get their praises, get them their kudos. And, I was able to do that for a long time. And we're actually getting ready to start up our, get back on the road this summer with some new set of people, and we're going to branch out of Virginia and we might have to make a stop down in Florida to see to bring the Educational AD podcast on. And but just being a part of both the VIAAA, and the NIAAA, and have been great for me. I was actually I forgot to mention I was a member of the NIAAA executive leadership cohort, and that's been that was the best professional development I've had in my whole career. With the 16 other athletic administrators from across the nation to talk about and get better about our programs. And made lifelong friendships with Dustin Smith, our current NIAAA president, and just people like Cole Kaner out in Washington, and Meg Singh, Hall of Famer. She was part of our group. I'm just and actually a guy that I work with now, Jonathan Buckfa. He's at our central office. You look at all those people, and it's like, man, how'd I get a seat at this table? Who did I mess up to get in part of this group? But those guys push me to be better every day too, and so I can't and I was able even to parlay that to a couple of years ago being one of the speakers, one of the workshop presenters at the national conference when we were in Nashville, and that I actually presented at the JV time slot that Tuesday morning at 8:30 in the morning, the last one. But I thought I was getting punked at the time because I was in the main ballroom, the one that it was Inky Johnson spoke at for the opening ceremony, and I'm going, man, I'm not going to fill this at 8:45 on a Tuesday morning, but I had a couple hundred people show up, and I felt good about it. So that was probably one of the highlights of my AD career.
Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned of all the experiences. You mentioned the cohort because you're absolutely right. I was involved in not trying to be a topper, but the inaugural cohort. And again, the people sitting around that table just so cool. Still in touch with them today, and every single person you mentioned from your cohort, hey, they've been on the podcast. So you're already in very good company. Okay, they're in your company. Okay. I guess I always ask this question, looking way back to those early LTI courses, maybe they were the legal courses or the foundational courses, but any memories of, that first time? We always talk about the expression drinking from the fire hose.
Yeah.
What are some of your memories of those early LTI courses?
It just how big how big the community is. Go in there and you take 501, that foundations course. Like, I had no idea that the private schools and the public schools work together in that, because I've been a public school guy all my life, and it's like thinking, man, so we're all worked. So, and in this profession, we're all in it together. It's not like, oh, you're trying to steal my kid, so I'm not going to work with you. We're all in it together. And it was like, I kept waiting for the next one. I'm like, oh, what's when's the next one going to be offered? But yes, those first couple legal courses, those being exposed to the 14 legal duties for the first time, it's like, wow, how am I not sued? How am I not? How did I still have a job in my early years of coaching compared to now?
Yeah. Oh no, you're absolutely right. And I joke, there's usually two responses, and sometimes they come simultaneously. One is, boy, this material is really great. I need to bring it back to my school. And the other side of that is, we're not doing any of this stuff. We're in big trouble. I really need to bring this back. So yeah, again, the courses and the people you meet, it's just a tremendous experience. Thanks to the NIAAA and to all the states for sharing those courses, to their to the ADs in their state. Jim, this has been cool catching up. I know we get to see each other at the conference for a minute, but very cool. Glad you're back in the AD chair. But we're not done yet. As you know, we always wrap up with the athletic director's toolbox, where our guests have a chance to give a brand new AD some advice. Now, you're not a brand new AD, but we're still going to ask you to contribute. So we're going to take a break. listen to Athletic Surveys, who sponsor this segment. When we come back, we're going to have Jim Harris for the second time tell us what's going to go into his new athletic director toolbox. We want to say thanks, excuse me, to our good friends at Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack. If you're not using a survey to take the pulse of your student athletes, your coaches, how about your parents, you're really missing out. At my school, we use surveys for just about everything, and the feedback we got was incredibly valuable. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey just for you and your stakeholders that really lets you take the pulse of your school. Go to athleticsurveys.com. And with all of our sponsors, please make sure you tell them you heard about it on the Educational AD Podcast. Well, it's that time of the podcast. We've been visiting, actually revisiting, with an old friend of the show, Jim Harris. He's a certified master athletic administrator, and he's the director of athletics at Freedom High School in Virginia. Jim, you know what it's like to be a new AD. What 3 tools are you going to put into a brand new athletic director's toolbox?
I think the first one is the one that, after I was on your show the first time, that I really came into my being. Became a much better athletic administrator is know your pillars. Know your pillars. What are your main things? What drives your decision making? I have 3. It's communication, education, and maximum participation. So those are the 3 things that I need that I make all my decisions based upon. And those are the 3 values that I try to impart on our coaches every time I meet with them. I put them up on the board and I say that, this is what I'm going for. I want you to communicate effectively. I want, I need you to be education. I want you to get better all the time, not only in your sport, but in the art of coaching. And then maximum participation. I challenge our coaches to keep bigger teams if they can, because you never know where you're going to find that little diamond in the rough, that little that 6'1" freshman that never touched the basketball very much until he made the freshman team that was a starter 2 years later. You never do that. So knowing what your pillars are. The second thing is it's okay not to know. It's not to know. The first couple times I was, in the big chair, I needed to know everything. I needed to know what was going on, where, how it was gone, and I needed to know every bit. This time through, I don't need to know everything. I just need to know that somebody's going to be at the game and they're going to cover it and it's going to be done right. I don't need to know all the details, and that's okay. I figured out that's okay. You don't need to be, hand doesn't need to be in everything. You just need to put people in positions to that you trust that can do the right thing. And then lastly, I'll do one of my old ones that I did the last time. It is be willing to try new things, and that is the biggest thing. It's the worst line in the English language is we've always done it this way. We've always done it this way, but that may have not been the best way to do it. And that's, coming in as a new AD here, that's what I hear a lot. Oh, we've always done it this way. That's how we do it here. And, getting out of that mindset, no, let's do it better. Let's try it this way. So get out of your comfort zone and try something new. We've always done it this way is should not be in your vocabulary.
I love how you led with the 3 pillars and then you gave each of the pillars. So in true AD fashion, you snuck a few extra tools in there, but every single one of them was great. I mean, I love them all. And you're so spot on with you don't need to know everything. It's also a great stepping stone to delegating and letting others kind of stretch their leadership muscles and try new things. You're absolutely right. I don't think there's anything more deflating or defeating than to hear from a supervisor or a boss, we don't do things that way, or we've always done it this way. Just, incredibly deflating. Jim, thanks again for coming on, taking time out of your busy schedule to share again with our listeners. One more time, if they want to get in touch with you, reach out and pick your brain just a little bit, how do our listeners get a hold of Jim Harris?
You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Jim Harris CMAA. Uh, it's one of the Certified Master Athletic Administrator accomplishments. It's one of my greatest things I've done in my life. I love it. I wish there was a certified master athletic administrator, because I'm above it, a super doctorate degree. But so Instagram and Twitter at JimHarrisCMAA.com, or you can just come over to the Freedom Prince William County website, Freedom High School in Prince William County in Woodbridge, and find my email there and email me. No problem at all.
Well, Jim, all the best moving forward. Hopefully, our paths will cross before Phoenix this year. But thanks again for sharing with our listeners.
Thank you, Jake, for having me again.
Want to say thanks to our listeners, too, for tuning in. And just a reminder that we upload the Zoom recordings of all of our interviews to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do this just about every day. We try to share stories along with some best practices from the world of athletics. So please come back and join us again on the next episode of the Educational AD Podcast. See you next time.